Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new edition of the Lasching Out Podcast, Nittany Sports Now Network. He's Kevin Quigley, and I am your host, Jarrod Prugar. Kevin, the biggest thing that I think I saw Saturday night was that team was fired up under Terry Smith, and he had them in a position to win the game. Unfortunately, they just came up short yet again.
Yeah, and I think they were ready. I think they were prepared, but I think the personnel decisions on Saturday night were just absolutely boneheaded. I know I usually start the show a little softer, but it's the first game under Terry Smith. We weren't sure what it was going to look like, but man, it's what they did and when they did it. It didn't feel right to me. It never really felt like they had a chance to win. It felt like the offense was built on a house of glass, and then every time, things were going well and, all the rocks weren't hitting the glass, then they just threw Jackson Smolik out there. So yeah, I thought the team came out. They looked a lot better than what they have in weeks past. They definitely looked inspired. I just don't think it's there what they need to win. I just don't.
Yeah, the offense was very bizarre because I think at times there were some nice little plays that really set the team up for success. Then you saw the Smolik package, and he got hurt Saturday night. Not sure the extent of that injury, but that could be catastrophic because guess what? Grunk, I think, did a really good job for the most part. He played exactly how you expected a backup to play in a hostile environment against Iowa. He was skittish at times. He was frantic at times. I thought for the most part, the offensive line did okay in pass protection. They kept him upright. I think he was only sacked once, but some of the mistakes that he made were self-inflicted. That's what you're going to get from a guy that hasn't got a lot of, heavy playing time, and that's normal. So that aspect wasn't, obviously the arm punt, TM that was good was there. It is what it is. That backed them up. The other interception, a lot of that honestly can be attributed to yes, he forced the ball in there, but Luke Reynolds has to do a better job in man press, just getting off the line. If you look at his
No,
footwork,
it
it was
doesn't have to be.
atrocious.
It doesn't have to be Luke Reynolds. Why the hell is Luke Reynolds running a slant route?
There's that too.
You have Trevor Pena. Why are you not using him?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
come on.
You just look at that play in itself, and yes, you wonder why Luke Reynolds is running that route. Why Luke Reynolds is on the field for a lot of these plays. Luke Reynolds had a rough game. I don't dislike the fourth down call. I dislike the execution of it solely because it was Luke Reynolds. They got zero push in run pass or in run protection. I don't think that they did a great job up front, but they were much better when they got off the edge and things like that. But again, it comes down to execution, and they did not execute when they mattered the most, and that goes on both sides. But we'll talk defense in the second segment. But offensively, man, you got to see Kobe Howard. He got some time. Tyseer Denmark got some time. Andrew Rappleyea got some time as well. Andrew Rappleyea is I think the guy at tight end. Luke Reynolds, again, I don't think he had a great game. We talk about why he was running a slant there, why you're running a tight end on a slant and man press against a cornerback. You're not setting yourself up for success, but his footwork was absolutely atrocious at the start of the route, and that gets him there a step or two behind because he's dealing with being jammed. And again, this is not Tyler Warren. I don't know, that third down or that third down and 5 that Nick Singleton got stuffed on, that's an RPO. That ball should have been out in the flat, not feeding it to Singleton. So I think there are some misreads and things like that need to get cleaned up. This is a perfect opportunity for a bye week. Really just reset. Again, I don't know that we noticed a lot of difference in play calling, but there were certainly some different things there. The gadget plays are a staple of Andy Kotelnicki, but you've still got to execute. And that's where they're struggling. And that's where they struggled all 7 games. Their failure to launch, their failure to execute has been a big problem, let alone the downfield pass.
The Luke Reynolds QB sneak was cool when Tyler Warren ran it like 6 times last year. Like they just went back to the well one more time. Iowa sniffed it out right away. Their middle linebacker, I forget his name, but like as soon as Luke Reynolds like slowed down at the guard, the middle linebacker crashed right on the A gap. Like that play was doomed from the start. I think offensive line, like is most I wouldn't I'm not even gonna say it was offensive line. It was Luke Reynolds. Luke Reynolds in run block was abysmal. I don't know why every time that there was a defender at the point of attack with a tight end blocking him that got through the block, it was Luke Reynolds. They had the screenplay, which I didn't love the timing of the screenplay that they ran, but you have Dinkins and Reynolds out there on a double team block. Dinkins gets the chip on the double team and then moves up to the next level. Why is it not Dinkins at the first level and then Reynolds getting up to the second level? Because Reynolds was just having a god awful night blocking. And like it just seems like every time that something could go wrong, like Luke Reynolds had missed a block. And it's just, I don't want to dog on him. Like I think he's a very talented kid, but he is not a talented blocker at this point in time in his career. I think Khalil Dinkins is a much better blocker than he is. I think Andrew Rappleyea, if he can stay healthy, he's a bigger guy. He's definitely not as athletic as Reynolds is, but he can probably block a little bit better.
Can't get much worse.
It literally can't. But I mean, they're just not using Reynolds in the right way. Like Reynolds you need to use him to attack the seams and get him on safeties. You don't need him running slant routes on corners. You don't need him in critical run blocking scenarios. And then let's see, on the tight ends, Luke Reynolds had 38 snaps. Andrew Rappleyea had 30 snaps. And why can I not find him? Khalil Dinkins had 46 snaps. Like they were in 3 tight end sets for a bulk of the night last night. Yeah, Katron got 28 carries and averaged 5.2 a carry, but it doesn't set up your quarterback for success if you're only having one wide receiver pass patterns and you have your other 3 route runners are Dinkins. I think like Dinkins is good in the red zone. I don't know if he's good much anywhere else. Like he's not as athletic as other tight ends have been in the pass game for Penn State in the last few years. Rappleyea, he had that one really good cross route, but you went out and grabbed all these guys in the transfer portal. You got Kobe Howard involved. You got Tyseer Denmark involved. And you ran 3 tight ends all night long. And the one time they showed a wide view on like why Ethan couldn't get into rhythm, the one time they show a wide view play call, there's 2 hitches and the receivers ran their 5-yard hitches and just stood there and did nothing. Like they were blanketed in coverage and they were just standing there. Move, do something, get open and quit. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's just that everybody's quit. Like, sure, they looked like they were giving more effort out there, but you couldn't get your backup quarterback in rhythm. The wide receivers aren't doing anything else to it. And anytime the backup quarterback finally completed a pass, guess what they did the very next play? They put Jackson Smolik in. Like, figure something out. Stick with one thing. The only thing that they stuck with consistency was the offset eye shotgun formation with the motion that ran in between the running back and the quarterback. And they ran that for like 5 plays on the same 7 or 8 play drive. It was successful one time and they kept banging their head into the damn brick wall that surrounds the Kinnick Stadium field. Like it was just, I'm over it. I'm sick and tired of this. Like there's so much talent on this roster and it is 100% getting misutilized. Like this is, it's frustrating.
Right, and there hasn't been any development. Again, we go back to the development well, right? I mean, you go out and get these receivers, and listen, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Grunkemeyer helped himself, but that's that's to be expected. But again, it's not like this team has stretched the field. The intermediate passing game, they're just sitting there. Terry Smith talked about that in his post-game press conference, and that's exactly what you would expect. I mean, they're just sitting where they need to sit. They're not a threat. Smolik was not a threat to throw. So, I mean, if he's healthy, if he's healthy, there's going to be an opportunity, I think, for the deep ball and for something deep, to get, Ohio State off on their heels, which is the other thing. It doesn't get any easier for Penn State and Ethan Grunkemeyer either. You got Ohio State next after a bye. Now, you have the next 14 days to just settle in and figure out what's going to accentuate Grunk's strengths. I still don't know his strengths. Nothing that I saw last night or at any point in his in his brief playing time at Penn State, has accentuated anything that he is strong at. Throwing, I think, he played a little nervous, and it's exactly what you expect. Go back to Tyquan Roberson when he played in relief of Sean Clifford. That's what it's normal, and I'm not. It's game number one, start number one for him, and it's not a position to have that you're going to enjoy by any means, but that's the nature of the beast right now. So it's figuring out what's going to be good, what's going to be strong, and where their strengths are moving forward. Katron Allen, I thought, did a great job, ran possessed. The distribution between he and Nicholas Singleton, I think, was good. That's why that third and 5 there on the last drive it wasn't necessarily boneheaded, but that's where you talk about execution more than anything.
I mean,
because it should not have been a give. It should not have gone to Nicholas Singleton at all. And if it's an RPO, yeah, you probably got Katron Allen on the sideline thinking that ball is going to go outside, or if he doesn't keep it, it could end up being a screenplay to Singleton if he throws it outside. But, I mean, you have to understand that lack of execution is crippling offensively too. Yes, Andy Kotelnicki deserves a lot of the blame because of the play calling, not setting players up for success. But, man, they got to execute too, and that's the bottom line. They have not executed through 7 games, and they had every chance to win that game, but they needed something to happen defensively, and that just never happened.
Yeah, I mean, the 3rd and 5 is like every 3rd or 4th and 5 that they've had in the last 10 years. It's the same RPO play that they run every time, that there's 4 or 5 yards to go and they have to get it. And they never get it. It's always an RPO inside the tackles. They always just hand it off, and it always goes for 0 yards. Like, I don't know why we were surprised. They ran that 3rd and 5, and I was like, oh, cool. Doesn't matter that James Franklin's gone. He's still here making the same damn play call. Like, it was infuriating. They love the double tailback set, which if you're only going to give the ball to Katron Allen, put Khalil Dinkins on the other side of Ethan Grunkemeyer. If all Nick Singleton is going to do is be a lead blocker, put a lead blocker in there. Like, the team, Iowa knows that's going to Katron because you've given it to him 20 times or whatever throughout the game. Obviously, he ended up with 28 carries, but everybody in the stadium knew that the next play call was going to be a handoff to Katron Allen, regardless of the situation, unless it's 3rd and 12.
But even then, you still probably could give it to him.
Put a lead blocker in there for him. Like, what are you doing? And then they had the double running back pass, like the double running back route. They put Nick Singleton up the seam to put him into traffic, and then they threw Katron on the swing pass. Give that ball to Nick Singleton. Get Nick Singleton out in space where he's fast and can make people miss. Like, I don't know. Like, it's gonna be a long last 5 games of the season for me. Like, it's just like, try something new. I get it. They only had a week. They only had 6 days to prepare for this. Like, it's the normal thing. But then you lose your coach and all the other stuff that goes around it. Luckily, that bye week is coming because I think there needs to be some stronger voices in the room that is not Andy Kotelnicki. Like, I think Ty Howell needs to get involved and be like, look, guys, like, what are we doing here? Like, there needs to be an adult in the room because Andy Kotelnicki's calling the plays like a child. Like, the same formation, same motion, just over and over and over again, and it's just not working. And you got to get Ethan Grunkemeyer in a rhythm. That's the same thing we said the entire tenure of Drew Aller. Get him in a rhythm, and he's good to go. Get Ethan Grunkemeyer in a rhythm and let him eat. And then the wide receivers need to give effort. The tight ends need to give effort. Like, somebody needs to get open. Ethan has to bail out of the pocket after one read because he looks at all the others and they're just standing there doing nothing. Of course he's going to bail out of the pocket.
You need to figure out what you're doing in the intermediate routes. You need to figure out what you're doing 5-10 yards down the field. Listen, he's not going to be a threat to throw the deep ball, but you got to figure out, that 5 to 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage and figure that out. Listen, I think I like Terry Smith's messaging. 100%. I think Terry Smith did a great job getting his team prepared. This is not a knock on him. Again, a lot of it just comes down. You lose. And listen, you lose by 1 point to Iowa on the road in a situation where you just lost your starting quarterback. Because I think that's the thing that we lost so much in the Franklin shuffle, right? We've talked about coaching this, coaching that. But you lose your starting quarterback. Then you lose James Franklin. And Ethan Grunkemeyer, I think, did an okay job. Again, 15 to 28 for 93 yards is But that's so par for the course for the Penn State offense this year that it is what it is. 2 interceptions, not afraid to make mistakes to an extent, but he spent a lot of time playing on his heels. Just got to dig your feet in and stay in the pocket. I think there were some moments there he panicked early, was a little bit skittish at times, and understandably so, right? But it comes down to the lack of execution, yeah, and not setting players up for success. Get Singleton into some space, get the ball down the field, figure out how to get, and that's what Terry Smith said after the game. I mean, you got to figure out that now you have time to figure this out. They typically come in on Sundays. Mondays is usually an off day, but figure out how you're going to develop over the next 2 weeks a plan to beat Ohio State. If there was ever a person that can help, it's Jim Knowles. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Jim Knowles when we come back for the second segment of the Lashing Out Podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network. Welcome back to the second segment of the Lashing Out Podcast. My name is Jarrod Prugar, and he is Kevin Quigley. Kevin, we talked briefly about Jim Knowles' defense and how to set up a win potentially against Ohio State in 2 weeks. I don't see that happening. But there's a lot left to be desired defensively. I will say this. Zachy Wheatley played an absolute monster of a football game. The interception I thought was spectacular. First drive really flipped the game early, which was great. Special teams, they had a blocked field goal for a touchdown. I think that aspect of the game was solid. The return game has a lot left to be desired. But defensively, man, yet again, another mobile quarterback torches the defense for Penn State. Mark Gronowski rushes 9 times for 130 yards as their lead rusher. 2 touchdowns and a 67-yarder. There was really, at that point, you realize Penn State probably wasn't going to win that game. Listen, the Knowles defense is what it is. I think that in time it will be okay, but right now it's not good. And that is a really big problem as they look to find any semblance of respectability for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and it got off to a terrible start from the run defensive side of things. DeLuca got pancaked twice on the first drive, and I know I'm just going to tee off on him tonight. Like, we are actually lashing out, or I am actually lashing out tonight. He was just, you get pancaked twice on the first drive and run blocking and run defense, like game over. And like, they all get sprung for big ass runs because like, why is Amari Cable not playing middle linebacker? Like, they're stuck in the stupid 4-2-5. It's not working. Like, it's just not working. Go back to a base defense. It's very clear they do not have the players to run this 4-2-5. Go back to 4-3, which probably 95% of the players in that locker room played in high school, or at least some sort of variation of it. They played it earlier in the season. Like, get some people out there, get more linebackers near the line of scrimmage. I don't think they tackled particularly well, but putting Amari Campbell and Dom DeLuca on the hash marks all night long and leaving the middle of the field wide open, it's just not working at all. I thought Keon Wiley came in. He made a big play early. I didn't think he played for the rest of the night, but he played 17 snaps, and his PFF grade is awful. But like, he's not going to get better if you don't play him. And just the run defense got gashed. And then again, they can't tackle the quarterback. The quarterback killed him. I mean, 14.4 yards to carry, the 67-yard long run. And the other one was like 30-some yards or something like that. I don't think Penn State has a 30-yard run this season besides what K-Tron did against Iowa last night. So, it's just too complicated. And Peacock threw up the graphic of, Jim Knowles' defense gets remarkably better in the second year. That's cool and all. But in the first year, you got to make some adjustments and simplify it. Like, save the 4-2-5 stuff for the offseason, or only run it in limited packages where everyone knows what the hell they're doing. Like, it does you no good if you think your defensive concept is the greatest thing in sliced bread, but none of your players can run it. If they're not executing, Again, put them into positions where they can succeed. And no one in that on that program is doing anything. But I do have to give some positivity. Yes, Saki Wheatley was an absolute dude last night. First, like 3 or 4 drives, like he was just all over the field. And honestly, he was more involved in the run game tackling than Dom DeLuca was. Like Dom DeLuca's getting gobbled up and pancaked all over the place last night and getting just lost in the sauce because he can't see over the defensive lineman. And Zaki just comes down and makes tackles 3 and 4 yards from the line of scrimmage. So he's probably the best bright spot on this defense, bar none. Nittany, like he's just getting double teamed all night long, and they're not doing anything on the other side of the line. Zariah gets hurt, but Chaz Coleman has 8 snaps last night. What are we doing? Like he's been your second best defensive end all season long. Why is he only playing 8 snaps? Go to the 3 defensive end set point that they went with last year for a bit. Throw 3 DNs out there. I thought, they could have used a lot of help, and they got none of it.
2 tackles for loss yesterday. 2. That's what it took. Zaki Wheatley had 10 tackles, 9 were solo, 1 interception, QB hurry. Dom DeLuca, they're running right at him, and they're taking him right out of the play. On that 67-yard run, I think it was, the second play of the 2-play drive, you saw it looked like Dennis Sutton and Zane Durant got just absolutely worked. And Durant got turned and didn't even see him run past him. You can't get beat like that. The defensive line hasn't shown up in 3 games. I think that's pretty fair to say. But when you're getting led by Zaki Wheatley, Davion Collins, AJ Harris, DeJuan Lane, Khalil Mack, Keon Wiley, Zion Tracy, those are all, you add DeLuca in there as well. Those are all your multiple tackle guys yesterday, or Saturday's game. DeLuca had 8, 5 of them were solo, let a lot more go right past him, and just really wasn't good at shedding his blocks. He's been a black hole for this defense in a way that Koa Farmer almost was years ago. But you've got to figure out a way to make it work, man. And I don't know what the solution is. I think obviously there's a lot of thinking, but you have to want it more at this point. Like you have to get off your blocks and make a play. When you're getting given up, how many yards? They were giving up 6.4 yards of play, 7.4 yards of rush. They didn't even, and Iowa is never a threat to pass, but they were never a threat to pass. Gronowski was 10 of 16 for 68 yards and a pick. And, you've got to be able to make those plays. You got to be able to figure it out. And, when you look at that, again, I think, aggressiveness. Penn State, I thought, was very aggressive offensively. Defensively, probably not, and understandably so. Iowa was 4 for 4 in the red zone. They had the ball far less than Penn State did. They had the ball for 13 minutes less than the Nittany Lions did. And, and again, you still only held them to 25 points, which is not anything to scoff at. Penn State's defense bared down really when they needed to before the fourth quarter. But that's when the Penn State offense really, really couldn't find anything going. But, they were able to get a pick six, or not pick six, but they were able to get a turnover. And they just didn't do a good enough job of making plays when it mattered the most. And that's been the theme this year on both sides of football, but especially so against Iowa defensively. Got to figure out a way to, not give up a 75-play drive that only lasts 2 plays.
Yeah, I think that was the painstaking thing. They had a legitimate shot, like that drive before where Barker kicks the field goal. I thought they had a legitimate shot to score a touchdown. They didn't convert. That's what you're going to have. They haven't converted in the red zone all season long, but that was 16 plays, took 8.5 minutes off the clock. Would have loved 7 there, but that's what you get with your backup quarterback. And when you haven't converted in the red zone all season long, you finally get the lead. It's like, okay, guys, just don't screw this up. Just hold them up. Defense, we need one more stop out of you. And I feel like time of possession was pretty equal last night. Like I don't feel like the defense was out. Iowa only had the ball for 23-48 last night. So Penn State was able to control the clock. And you just need the defense to make, 3 minutes worth of plays, 4 minutes worth of plays. And they give up a 75-yard play, or 67. Was it 67? That was the 67-yard run. First play of the drive. Guys, don't give up a touchdown. They said, no problem. We give up 1 and 2 plays. It's very untimely, I think, and that's been the rest of the season. It's untimely. It's not consistent. And when you need something, it ain't going to happen. And when you don't need something, they're just going to put on a show.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that it is. On that drive alone, okay, so let's do some math here. 75 divided by 313. A quarter of their offense came on that play. Or on that drive alone, that 75-yard drive. You take out that drive in itself, and that's we're not talking about the defense at all. They do a good job. Moulton had 99 yards, but he needed 17 carries to get there. So, he's averaging 5.8 yards, but a lot of that comes on a 21-yard rush. So, you're giving up these big, big chunk plays, and that's what needs to stop. Minimize. We talk about minimizing all the time, and that's been the biggest issue. And I think if they're able to do that, listen, again, it doesn't get any easier. I think a lot of people are expecting Ohio State to really mop the floor with Penn State, but they have 2 weeks to prepare. The last time an interim coach went into Columbus or played against Ohio State, good things happen. I'm not trying to be a prophet or anything like that, but I'm going to tell you this right now. It's going to be closer than people will give it credit for, because Terry Smith is the guy for motivation. I don't know what they're going to do for the coaching search. I don't know what the right answer is. Everybody and their brother, I think, honestly, that was rumored or on the hot board for Penn State lost over the weekend, except for I think maybe Eli Drinkwitz and Brent Key. And honestly, I don't know that Key is even a solution, because why would he want to leave Georgia Tech? That's his alma mater. And let's be real, the ACC is easy to win. Right now, the way that it is, he's set up for life. Now, of course, he has Haynes King, and that certainly helps. But, Billy Napier was canned Sunday. I would imagine Mike Norvell will be fired at some point soon. Lane Kiffin lost. Kirby Smart won. Matt Rule lost in embarrassing fashion. Maybe they go with PJ Fleck. I don't know. A guy I would recommend. Everybody knows that I love my beloved Boise State Broncos, but Spencer Danielson, that's a guy that can win at a smaller school. They whooped up on Dan Mullen, who was a potential candidate as well. So, that part of it is going to get uglier as the season wears on. But for Penn State, now you got 10 to 14 days to prepare for Ohio State and getting back to respectability. And, that was a very admirable effort. Again, you take away those chunk plays, and I think we're having a way different conversation than we are right now. That 2-play 75-yard drive was the straw that broke the camel's back, because it was at that point you realize, okay, well, they're not going to win this game. And it is what it is. They're a team that's on an interim head coach and a backup quarterback that had never played or never started before in his life at the college level. And yet they're still just minutes away from potentially winning. And then our conversation turns completely different.
Yeah, I know it's late in the show and no one's probably listening at this point in time, or very few people have probably turned us out. I don't want my frustrations to be interpreted as talking down on them. I think they gave a valiant effort. It's just the frustration of Penn State's 3-4. When's the last time that they were sub 500? I don't even think, maybe James Franklin's first season, 2014. Was it 2014? Yeah, 2014 was his first year. So maybe that's it. Maybe 2015, before was 2015 the Minnesota game with Saquon in overtime. They've not been under 500 for a decade, and then here we are sitting at 3-4. with all the talent in the world, and it's just not getting utilized properly. So, am I hopeful that they win against Ohio State? Like, absolutely not. Like, I really don't even want to watch it. I'm going to be miserable watching it because, of course, I will. But yeah, in the 2 weeks they've got a lot. They've got a lot to figure out. Obviously, with Terry Smith being there, I thought it was a great audition for him in his first game out. He's got. Not only does he have to be thrown into the situation where he is the interim guy, but now he's got a starting quarterback who's never started a game in his life at the college level. He's only played, a handful of quarters just because the team underachieved the first half of this season and wasn't able to get him 3 halves worth of football in the first 3 games like they should have been able to. So, yeah.
It's a very weird time to be associated with Penn State football. Very bizarre. But we're going to talk a little bit more about what that entails when we come back from this break on the Nittany Sports Now Network. Welcome back to the third and final segment of the Lasching Out Podcast. I'm Jarrod. He's Kevin. Kevin, you might as well talk about it now. How bad were the picks this week?
I was gloating in the break. Really wasn't ready for us to come back, but here we are. Let's see. I picked Iowa. You picked Penn State, so that's +1 to me. We both picked LSU, which was a faux pas on both of our parts. I'd say Clark Lee is probably the other Penn State coaching candidate that had a successful weekend. We both picked Georgia Tech, so we are correct there. We both picked UGA. We both picked Alabama, and I correctly picked Notre Dame over USC. And you did not.
That's right. I went with my heart, not my brain for 2 of them.
Yep. So I was 5 of 6 on the weekend, and you were 3 and 6. So picked up the crucial. I think I was trailing you by 2 games this season, so I think I picked up the crucial bit. Let's see. Let's talk about the James Franklin interview on game day. Was texting with some friends because, of course, everyone knows how passionate in my friend group. Everyone knows how passionate I am with Penn State football, and they were like, "What do you think?" I thought it was borderline embarrassing for him. Like, obviously, they were throwing him softball questions. Sure, reflect on the positives you had at Penn State, but also, like, just take some onus on it. Like, you underachieve in 2017. 2020 is a dog. It's a shit show. 2021, not good. You finally bounce back. 2024, you have the surprise playoff run. And in 2025, the year that you're supposed to have your best team ever, you drop 3 games on the road. So you've underachieved in literally half of the seasons that you've been employed at this university. And you don't understand why you got fired? Like, just say, hey, man, like, yeah, like, we had a lot of highs at Penn State. And, if I had to do it all over again, maybe I'd change some things. You don't even have to be truthful about it, but at least put on an image that you are going to be reflective and critical of your own self. I didn't prepare really well at the bye week. So before my next coaching job, like, I'm going to learn some bye week tactics. I might call a couple other coaches around, see what they're doing, talk to some of my friends, find people who are successful with top 10 teams. Nick Saban bailed his ass out saying that it was awful that Penn State fired him. Call Nick Saban and say, hey, man, how'd you beat top 10 opponents? Like,
consistently.
Just be reflective and be truthful to yourself. Like, just don't talk that, like, sure.
But he was never like that. I mean, let's be real. He was never like that at Penn State. And that's part of the problem. And I said that in my column. Because Penn State and James Franklin were a perfect marriage until the very end. And it got ugly quick. I watched it. I think it was a TikTok that my wife sent me, and it was very accurate, right? It's like, Kevin, like, you're with your significant other for 12 years. And, you go through the ups and downs of life. There are some big moments, big wins, but not the ring, right? You're not getting that ring on her finger, right? And then, every big event happens. And it's like Christmas and New Year's and maybe the birth of a nephew or whatever. And you just don't bring your A game, right? And there's still no ring. And then you start to second guess it. And then things get horrifically worse. And then poof, this whole season, really, the red flags were there. They were there last year. the inability to win and put a team away in Notre Dame when they needed to. You were on the road at USC, needed bailed out. Minnesota bailed out. So now, those red flags.
Didn't capitalize a 10-0 start against Ohio State at home.
Yeah. And
squandered that away.
You get into this Groundhog Day situation, and you know what? Pat Kraft had to make a hard decision. I don't envy Pat Kraft by any means. I do wish I had a couple of the zeros that were probably in his bank account. That'd be kind of nice, but with power comes responsibility. But, at the same time, this had to be done. Penn State doesn't owe James Franklin anything right now. In time,
besides
they will honor him.
$50
Right. Yeah, they owe him an absolute crap ton of money, but they don't owe him anything. Was it unfair? Coach the damn team and win football games. That's what you're paid to do. You want to talk about fair? That's fair. You didn't hold up your end of the bargain. Yeah, winning 10 games is great. 11 games is great, but you don't win the one that matters the most. It's that simple. That's why we're here. That's why we're having these conversations. Do you know who's going to be better than James Franklin? I don't know. Is it Terry Smith? Honestly, I have no idea. Is it who knows who in the coaching carousel? Absolutely no idea what's going to happen. But you have to go out and hit a home run. But you knew this was going to happen. You knew this is going to be a softball PR tour for James Franklin, and I've very much been on the other side of the fence, very a Franklin supporter, if you will. But man, you knew this was going to happen. Nick and James have the same agent, Jimmy Sexton, who is a dog in getting some of these deals. And I think that's one of those situations. It is what it is. He's on the PR tour. Now this is a twofold. One, well, I can't answer that. But yes, you can. You know damn well what happened. Your team and your locker room were lost. They didn't execute. And your teams weren't ready to play after you started to pout because you didn't get a contract extension. I mean, it's that simple. Own it. Embrace it. Because if I'm an AD and I don't see that accountability, why am I going to hire you? Right? I mean, show that accountability. You're going to listen. Could he make somebody that? I think it would be great on ESPN. I think he'd be great on that panel, wherever they decide to put him. He's polished. He's good at what he does. He's a good talker. A lot of BS, especially in the media. But I think he would be very good at that aspect of it. But you got to be accountable, and you got to be held accountable because that's why you're here. Your ego and your arrogance ultimately were the straw that broke the camel's back, and you getting fired. And you know it, and everybody else knows it because you were stubborn enough not to change over the course of 12 years.
Yeah, that's all I wanted from it was just I wanted to hear some reflection of, yes, I did a lot of great things at Penn State, and I don't think anybody in the program, around the program, in Central PA, the alumni base can say that James Franklin was terrible for this program. I think he was excellent for the program, and what he did was incredible.
And that's not even what people are saying either. Like, he did a lot of great things. Like, the program was a disaster when he took over. Sanctions this, sanctions that. He was, and I said this in my article, he was Joe Paterno 2.0, 100%. But there is a shelf life in coaches like that.
Yeah, you just take something on the chin. Like, yeah, we did a lot of good things, but ultimately, like, we came up short. Like, we made some mistakes. I made some mistakes, and that was all I was wanting to hear. I wanted to hear some sort of reflection of, maybe I didn't do as well as I should have. I think, maybe just the media talked about how great of a coach he was, got to his head, and that's all he lived off of. But let's see. Elsewhere around the country, Carson Beck threw 4 interceptions. So while Penn State may have had an awful weekend, Carson Beck was even worse. I think he could have thrown six picks. I think Louisville. He had a 5th pick that got called back due to roughing the passer, which I don't, whatever. And then the 6th interception that he could have thrown on the weekend was dropped by the defensive back. So Louisville ultimately goes into Miami Gardens, into the Hard Rock Stadium, and ultimately gets the dub against the number 2 team in the land. Nebraska lays an absolute egg against Minnesota. So I think that takes Matt Rule out of the running. Hopefully, Luke Fickles lost 5 straight at Wisconsin.
Shocked that he's still there. I'm going to be honest. I thought for sure he was going to get fired.
I don't know if him or Norvell get fired first, but I don't know how it's not Fickle. A&M survives a squeaker against Arkansas. Tennessee kind of uncompetitive against Alabama. Arizona State did upset Texas Tech. And then LSU, man, I really thought Vanderbilt showed me a lot this weekend. I really didn't think Vanderbilt had it. I didn't know how they would perform against LSU. I think, how Vanderbilt played against Alabama last week kind of was like meh. But also Alabama has stuff to prove, right? They did go into Nashville and lose. I think Nick Saban even alluded to that. He was like, Nashville is frustratingly no longer the hardest place in the SEC to play. I thought that was hilarious to catch that little one line from Saban. But Vanderbilt proved a lot to me. Georgia Tech proved a lot. Duke just shot themselves in the foot, though. They were on the 5-yard line, could have gone up 7-0, and Darian Mensah fumbles it, and then Georgia Tech scoop and score 95 yards the other way to the house. So, yeah.
Are we doing our picks?
We could do. You want to do some picks? Let's do some picks.
I think we might as well. Listen, let's be real. This is a bye week, so we don't have any other podcasts this week. This is it.
Yeah. Let me get this set up for us here. Let's see. This is going to be week.
But you're right. I mean, these teams, everything is this is probably the most bizarre year of college football. I don't know how Fickle has a job. I don't know how Norvell has a job right now. I think he's next. Billy Napier, I think that's now there have been 4 college football coaches fired after they beat Mississippi State over the last few years. I think I saw that statistic online. So, I mean, that aspect is wild. But, I mean, there's just so much, now that can happen, right? I mean, any given day, any given night, somebody can win. And, it's a wild west. And it's one of those dogs, one of those things. I saw that the guy that said he was going to eat dog shit has not ate it yet, and it seems like that has completely ruined the Florida State everything.
Yeah, I don't know how to respond to that one. Let's see. I got 3 games picked. We'll pick the rest of them as we go on. Let's see. Yeah, there's some interesting ones down here that we haven't gotten to. That I haven't scrolled down far enough for. Just looking at top 25 games. Ole Miss, number 8, travels to number 13, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 4.5-point favorite. That is the noon game on ABC. So it'll be 11 o'clock game for both of those teams on the body clock. John Mateers came back. I think bounced back well against South Carolina this week, 26-7. They won. Ole Miss don't want to lose 2 in a row, but OU is a 4.5 home point favorite.
I got to go with Ole Miss. I really like Ole Miss. I thought they had a very good chance to win that game, but they just came up short at the end. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss in that one. It's a noon kick, so it's 11 a.m. out in Oklahoma.
I did say that already. Sorry. I'm going to go Boomer Sooner on that one. Some interesting in the group of 5. Number 18, South Florida travels to Memphis. USF is a 3.5-point favorite. Memphis lost to UAB and the no longer fighting Trent Dilfers because Trent Dilford also got fired a couple weeks ago. He was at UAB, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to make sure I had that right. So this will be their first game since losing to UAB. May have taken them out of contention for that group of 5 playoff spot. But USF, I think I'm gonna go the Bulls on that one.
Yeah, I'm all aboard the Bulls. Fighting South Florida Bulls. I like what they're doing. Keep up to this is a big game for that group of 5 bowl game. So or the playoff position. So it's gonna be very interested to see kind of how it goes.
Next up, number 15, Missouri travels to Vanderbilt. That game is at 3:30 on ESPN. Sorry, I'm typing and talking at the same time. Vanderbilt is only a 3.5-point favorite, which I feel like is disrespectful to them. I think Vanderbilt wins in a massive, massive way.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if they're hot right now, Diego Pavia is walking the talk, walking the walk and talking the talk, and I think that's a really big thing when you have the confidence and swagger that he does at Vandy.
Let's see. Next up, number 11, BYU travels to Ames to take on Iowa State. Iowa State, for being the home team and unranked, is still a 2.5-point favorite. BYU won the Holy War this weekend against Utah. I don't understand why Iowa State is a favorite in this one. So I'm going to go with Cougs.
Yeah, BYU, man. The Mormons are battling, and they're in the driver's seat in the Big 12. Go Cougs.
Let's see. TAMU, Texas A&M goes to Tiger Stadium. Number 3 A&M takes on the number 20 ranked LSU Tigers. TAMU is only a 2.5-point favorite.
Go A&M. They're weird, and their little rebel yell thing is very weird. Their roll call or whatever they call it. But yeah, go Aggies. I can't ever go with Brian Kelly. And again,
I think that's all I got. I was thinking about another team. Texas does have to go to Stark Vegas this weekend. That should be interesting.
Hopefully Sark doesn't get fired if they win.
Texas Tech. That's who I was looking for to see how they were going to bounce back, but they have Oklahoma State, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. They're 38.5-point.
I will say this about Oklahoma State: like, there's not a fan base in the world that's 1-6 and 0-4 in conference play that's having as much fun as they are. You have the conga line with the banana suits, the sections of shirtless guys. Like, Oklahoma State fans are living it up. They're enjoying every minute of being awful, and it's pretty bad when the most entertaining thing is in the bleachers.
Yeah, that's how it be. So I think that's all I got.
Any parting shots, Kevin?
I think I've thrown a lot of shots. I don't think I need one more to throw. We'll see you on Sunday.
That's fair. My parting shot essentially was my rant about Franklin and all of that BS, which is what it was. I mean, it's just a PR thing. Get out in front of it. Go ahead, Kevin.
I do have my start. Shut the hell up about Urban Meyer. Just shut the hell up about Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is not coming to coach Penn State. You may think you want Urban Meyer to come to Penn State, but unless you want Beaver Stadium to burn to the ground and sanctions again and NCAA fines and all these postseason bans in 7 years after he leaves the program in shambles in 4 years with some other fake-ass health scandal or grabbing some woman's ass in a bar and getting caught on camera doing it again, just shut up about Urban Meyer. Just shut up. Not coming. I don't want any part of that. You don't want any part of that. Leave him on Big Noon Kickoff. Let him be happy over there.
To be fair, most of the stuff that he got in trouble for now is pretty legal.
Still, he's just a sleazeball.
But I don't know. But he's a guy that has the game past him, right? Like, you know, and that's kind of like the deal.
Since he coached?
However long Ryan Day's been.
Urban Meyer's last year was 2018 at Ohio State, and then he had that awful year in Jacksonville with T-Law as a rookie. So
yeah, and I mean, and then he was just mired and stuff. But I mean, it's going to get nasty. That's why they call it a silly season. But who knows what's going to happen, right? I mean, anything can happen any given day. Who knows who's going to be attached to the program next, or attached to what should be a promising job opening. But That's all we got. We are taking the rest of the week off. It's a bye week for us too. We had nothing to talk about. We're over the coaching search. We're over football. We're going to rest, recuperate, and enjoy a nice long week. We'll catch you again for the pregame podcast ahead of Ohio State. At this point, it looks like I'm buying a ticket to the game because I did not get credentialed for the game. So ticket prices are continuing to stay down. Feel free, if you'd like to commit yourself to the Jarrod Prugar Ticket Fund, by all means. That would be great. But if they get under $100, I don't think I'm going to take a stab at going to the game. We go from there, and that's where the Penn State Ohio State game is at. A couple weeks ago it was at $500. Now you might be able to walk in the door at less than 100, which would be just insane. But for Kevin Quigley, this has been Jarrod Prugar. Thank you as always for listening to the Lasching Out Podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network.